Hello everyone, I'm Nasib John. Welcome to another session of Chemistry Made Easy. Today, we will learn about matter and its properties. Specifically, we will differentiate the following: pure substance versus mixture, element versus compound, homogeneous mixture versus heterogeneous mixture, physical change versus chemical change, and intensive property versus extensive property. Number 1. Classify each of the following as a pure substance or a mixture. Before we answer this, let's first differentiate a pure substance and a mixture. All matter can be classified as either a pure substance or a mixture. A pure substance is also simply called as a substance. All substances are either elements or compounds. A pure substance is composed of a single component, while a mixture is composed of two or more components which are physically combined. So if you combine two or more substances, you will form a mixture. Each substance or component in a mixture retains its chemical identity. Oxygen is an example of a pure substance because it's an element. Water is also an example of a pure substance because it's a compound. An example of a mixture is a cup of coffee. Coffee is composed of two or more components. It has coffee powder, hot water, and sugar. Each substance in a coffee retains its chemical identity. Pag sinabi nating retains its chemical identity, ang ibig sabihin nito, kahit na-dissolve na yung coffee powder at sugar sa tubig, walang nabago sa kanilang chemical identity. Ang composition ng coffee powder ay coffee powder pa rin. Ang composition ng sugar ay sugar pa rin. At ang composition ng tubig ay tubig pa rin. Moreover, a pure substance has a fixed composition while a mixture has a variable composition. Ang ibig sabihin ng fixed composition is that yung composition niya ay hindi nagbabago from sample to sample. For example, ang water mula sa faucet at ang water mula sa ilog ay parehong may formula na H2O. Water will always be composed of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen regardless of the sample source. Ang ibig sabihin naman ng variable composition is that yung composition niya ay nagbabago. For example, sa cup of coffee, pwede kang mag-add ng kaunti or maraming sugar or pwede mong dagdagan ng tubig yung kape depende sa'yo. Now let's go back to the problem. Classify each of the following as a pure substance or a mixture. Letter A, water. Obviously, it is a pure substance because it is a compound. Letter B, soft drink. It is a mixture because it is composed of two or more components. Soft drink contains water, sugar, coloring, and flavorings. Letter C, mercury. It is a pure substance because it is an element. Letter D, carbon dioxide or CO2. It is a pure substance because it is a compound. Letter E, bronze. It is a mixture. Bronze is an alloy of copper and tin. Letter F, air. It is also a mixture. Air does not only contain oxygen, but it also contains nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and other gases. Number 2. Classify each substance as an element or a compound. Before we answer this, let's first differentiate an element and a compound. All pure substances are either elements or compounds. An element contains one type of atom, while a compound contains two or more types of atoms which are chemically combined. Now let's go back to the problem. Classify each substance as an element or a compound. Letter A, copper wire. It is an element made up of copper or Cu atoms. Letter B, table salt. It is a compound. The formula of table salt is NaCl. It contains two types of atoms, sodium and chlorine. Letter C, iron nail. It is an element made up of iron or Fe atoms. Letter D, baking soda. It is a compound. The formula of baking soda is NaHCO3. It contains four types of atoms, sodium, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. Letter E, hydrogen peroxide. It is a compound. The formula of hydrogen peroxide is H2O2. It contains two types of atoms, hydrogen and oxygen. Letter F, oxygen. It is an element. Oxygen is diatomic and its formula is O2. It is only made up of one type of atom, which is oxygen. Number 3. Classify each mixture as homogeneous or heterogeneous. Before we answer this, let's first differentiate a homogeneous mixture and a heterogeneous mixture. A homogeneous mixture is also called a solution. Homogeneous mixtures are uniform throughout. They have the same composition, properties, or appearance throughout. Ang ibig sabihin ng uniform throughout is that hindi kayang i-distinguish o i-identify ng ating mata ang bawat component o substance na nasa mixture. For example, in a cup of coffee, hindi na kayang i-identify ng ating mata kung alin ang coffee powder o kung alin ang sugar o ang tubig because ang mixture ay uniform throughout. On the other hand, a heterogeneous mixture is a type of mixture that is not uniform throughout. For example, in a mixture of oil and water, kayang i-identify ng ating mata kung alin ang oil at alin ang tubig. Now let's go back to the problem. Classify each mixture as homogeneous or heterogeneous. Letter A, fruit salad. It is a heterogeneous mixture because it is not uniform throughout. Kayang i-identify ng ating mata ang mga ingredients ng fruit salad. Letter B, concrete. It is also a heterogeneous mixture. It is made up of cement, sand, gravel, and water. Its appearance or texture is not uniform throughout. Letter C, soil. It is also a heterogeneous mixture. Soil is not uniform throughout. Letter D, LPG or liquefied petroleum gas. LPG is a mixture of gases such as butane and propane. It is a homogeneous mixture because we cannot distinguish the gases in LPG just by looking at it. Letter E, cement. It is a homogeneous mixture of calcium compounds. It is a fine powder that is uniform throughout. Letter F, stainless steel. It is a homogeneous mixture because it is uniform throughout. Steel is an alloy of iron and carbon. Letter G, rubbing alcohol. It is also a homogeneous mixture because it is uniform throughout. Rubbing alcohol is a mixture of alcohol, water, and scents. Letter H, powdered milk. It is a homogeneous mixture because it is uniform throughout. Letter I, halo-halo. It is a heterogeneous mixture because it is not uniform throughout. Letter J, oil and water. It is also a heterogeneous mixture. Number 4. Classify each process as a physical change or a chemical change. Before we answer this, let's first differentiate a physical change and a chemical change. In a physical change, a substance changes its physical appearance but not its composition. This means that the substance is the same before and after the change. On the other hand, in a chemical change, a substance changes its composition and a different substance is formed. All phase changes are physical changes. Transformations from solid to liquid, liquid to gas, and liquid to solid are examples of phase changes. A chemical change is also called a chemical reaction. Now let's go back to the problem. Classify each process as a physical change or a chemical change. Letter A, lighting a match. It is a chemical change because the match is not the same before and after lighting it. Letter B, chopping wood. It is a physical change. The composition of the wood is the same even if you chop it. The only thing that is changed is its size. Letter C, baking a cake. It is also a chemical change. Letter D, cutting paper. It is obviously a physical change. Letter E, rusting of iron. It is a chemical change. Rusting is an oxidation reaction. Oxidation is an example of a chemical reaction. Letter F, melting of chocolate. It is a physical change because it is just a phase change from solid to liquid. Letter G, evaporation of water. It is also a physical change. It is because it is just a phase change from liquid to gas. The composition of water is still the same. Letter H. Sublimation of mothballs. It is also a physical change. Sublimation is a phase change from solid to gas. Mothballs are those small balls of pesticide sometimes used when storing clothes. Letter I. Crushing a metal can. It is obviously a physical change. Letter J. Growth of a plant. It is a chemical change because it involves photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a chemical reaction. Now let's differentiate intensive property and extensive property. Intensive properties are properties of matter that do not depend on the amount of the sample. Temperature, melting point, boiling point, viscosity, color, and density are examples of intensive properties. For instance, let's talk about color. Kung ikukumpara natin yung kulay ng isang baso ng tubig at isang patak ng tubig, di ba pareho lang silang colorless? It is because the color of water is not dependent on the amount of the water present. On the other hand, extensive properties are properties of matter that depend on the amount of the sample. Mass, volume, and length are examples of extensive properties. For instance, let's talk about volume. Ang isang cup ng tubig at isang balde ng tubig ay magkaiba ng volume. It is because the volume of water depends on the amount of water present. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more updates. Have a great day!